After 2 fairly solid weeks, it was only a matter of time before, and just like that, fell back into old habits. By which I mean having as firm a grip on reality as 2011 Charlie Sheen. So, grab yourself a warm pint of tiger blood, like and subscribe, and let's get into it. Carrie kicks things off by taking a glancing blow to her ego. During a Zoom call to promote gloomy almanac Loved and Lost, an unnamed influencer commits the capital offence of not knowing who our plucky protagonist is. It's a cheap, thinly veiled shot at
Kinsey's
perceived lack of work ethic, which is particularly rich coming from a show so obsessed with shallow materialistic guff that I often wonder if it's being written by a bunch of magpies that got into a stash of Adderall. Since that promotional effort didn't work out, Carrie hoofs it over to the unofficially titled WidowCon. Basically Coachella for the involuntarily despoused, but the crying comes before the narcotics. Unfortunately, the event coincides with an epic snowstorm, which prompts Carrie to wear this absolutely ridiculous Montclair sleeping bag. The f*** she did. It's a bizarre sequence, not least because of the stylish poise Carrie holds throughout. If this was real life, you could leave the house in Arctic survival gear, and in that weather, still arrive at your destination looking like you share a wig maker with Phil Spector. Having wildly misread the brief once again, Carrie expects a miserable circle she can look down on, but instead finds a surprisingly upbeat gathering. Upon which, of course, she drops the profound buzzkill that is her latest po-faced witterings.
Geez, I wouldn't have come all this way in the snow if I'd known the widow wand was on back order.
You suck!
But this is Carrie's world, and we just live in it, so as usual, her literary depression bomb goes down a treat. And she manages to sell plenty of future kindling to her unwitting victims. And if that doesn't work out, they can always burn that horrible f***ing coat. Oh, and it's almost Aiden time. You can tell because he's brought up in passing out of absolutely nowhere, with a load of exposition making it crystal clear that he's single. Carrie winds up dropping him an exploratory email, which he could, but won't delete. So when he does show up, he and his appalling risk assessment skills are now fair game. This week in Who Gives a Shit news, barring a brief nut-cracking from daughter Gabrielle, Herbert's function this episode is to continue the boring tug-of-war between his and Lisa's competing careers. It seems to pointlessly rear its head every week, so who cares? Here's a picture of a puppy instead. Speaking of Lisa, she's the guest of a very badly attended Q&A at the Museum of Modern Art for her documentary. But the most interesting thing she does this week is wear this getup. Is it just me, or do you keep expecting her to scream humbug and chuck a bag of coins at the poorest kid she can see from her bedroom window?
Scrooge is saved. What can happen now?
Yeah.
And Seema invites Carrie to summer with her in the Hamptons at a house she's rented. A storyline they're trailing way too far in advance for it not to end in disaster. Did anyone else catch a weird vibe coming off the whole thing though? If it's what I think it is, I'm gonna flip a table. The cracks are really starting to show in Miranda's relationship with Che, which I'm happy to say is only metaphorical. After doing the deed, Miranda wants to cuddle, a word no adult should be using, FYI, but Che's not into it, asking,
"Oh, cuddle? Why am I Paddington Bear?"
Of course not, Che. People actually like him. Miranda finally twigs that the rest of the world is getting a fake happy-go-lucky Che via some truly rotted cameo messages, while she's left to lap up the dribbles of acid left at the bottom of their social battery. Another metaphor that I encourage you not to think too long about. Their confrontational reaction to Miranda's discovery of undeclared pics from fans also gives a glimpse behind the curtain of Che's anything goes attitude to relationships, which seems increasingly like a cover for them being able to do anything they want without consequences. Anything except tell a funny joke, apparently. Evidently only happy when her entire life is ablaze, Miranda distracts herself by resolving to broach the topic of divorce with a still lingering Steve. This move, it transpires, is like sticking your fingers in a mousetrap because you fancy some cheese, and with much the same results. Because when she does confront him, she leads with the schoolboy error of staking a claim on their house because the mortgage is only in her name. Which, I'm happy to say, is all it takes for Steve to unleash nearly 25 years of pent-up resentment. I mean, just listen to this. It is epic.
You never wanted me. And you never even wanted Brady! So why don't you go find a new place and get the out of our lives?
And let's be honest, it's pretty difficult to argue with him. Miranda hasn't been patiently waiting for Steve to be ready for divorce. She's been patiently waiting for him to just give her everything, which she evidently feels entitled to despite her wandering Whisker Biscuit having been the reason it all fell apart in the first place. The Olivia Wilde strategy, I believe. Allegedly. Turns out she should have slowed her roll on notifying Steve that divorce papers are incoming because Che's got some news for her too. They admit that things won't get any better between the two of them and swiftly end it. Which I would argue actually immediately makes things better, in the same way as removing a cactus from your ass beats sitting on it for the rest of your life. So just to take inventory for a second. No masters, no marriage, no relationship, no home, and nothing else to show for it. If I was her, I'd just cut my losses, move back to California, and start dating a psycho nurse. Just a thought. Rock's boring throwaway ad campaign for Ralph Lauren makes an inexplicably full-page debut in the New York Times this week. And everyone cares for what feels like an overly generous period of 30 seconds. I mean, let's talk about it for a second, shall we? It's fairly obvious that across 2 seasons, the show has all but admitted defeat when it comes to finding anything interesting to do with Charlotte and Harry. Which will happen if you try to keep things going after you've sent people off with a happy ending. Same rule goes for illegal massage parlors. As a result, this week we ricochet back onto their other daughter, Lily, who has decided that now she's 17, it's high time she punched her V-card with boyfriend Blake. Lily, you may remember, sang a rancid, highly relatable song a few weeks back about the pain of being a rich, privileged brat. Which is why it's so surprising to find her demanding reservations at Nobu prior to Blake's 10-second debut performance. I guess being just like everyone else loses its shine when faced with the prospect of getting clumsily by a guy whose fingers are still covered in the remnants of his Happy Meal. To her credit, Charlotte does give Lily a pep talk about ensuring she enjoys herself as much as Blake. Now, feel free to disagree with me, but presuming this is also Blake's first go-round, expecting him to do what men triple his age never mastered is a touch presumptuous. She'd probably stand a better chance jumping from the top of the stairs and landing on his Happy Meal toy. During the aforementioned snowstorm, Lily calls from Blake's place to request that Charlotte brave the blizzard to buy her a pack of squirt skirts. Whereas I would have told her to find a rubber band and a shower cap and make do, Charlotte's desire to avoid a teenage pregnancy-related excommunication from her social circle wins out. Like an Uber powered by shame, she manages to track down a selection of bags and delivers them to Lily at Blake's door. And then just stands looking up at what she must assume is the bedroom window. Let's either hope the bed doesn't have a street view or Blake is super into being watched. Last video's top comment ended up a three-way corpse-off between Miss Chains, Vespicidus? That person? And... oh, for f***'s sake. You know what? I'm gonna save us all the pain of me trying to pronounce that. This video's question is, how would you dispose of Carrie's disgusting coat? And yes, I'm still not over it. I'll never be over it. Drop your most creative acts of restorative justice in the comments below, and the best will hopefully wipe that atrocity off the map next time. Either way, thanks for watching, don't forget to like and subscribe, and remember, if you can't be good, be crusty.